So hello, young students of ancient history. Last time we examined the Roman Revolution and all that went on between Pompey and Caesar and the sort of collapse of this Roman Republican system, and we ended with the death of Julius Caesar, who was stabbed to death on the floor of the Senate, and the reforms that he established, that everything that had been the traditional way of political theory and the way of the ancestors, the Mos Maiorum, had been upended by his great rebellion and the destruction of Pompey and the Senate and the last faction who had believed in the virtuous republic had been chased out of Rome, and the few stragglers who had made deals with Julius Caesar finally stabbed him to death on the floor of the Senate. And that Caesar was a fairly merciful enemy to have, that he would forgive those who would be willing to serve him. And after his death, his right-hand man, Marc Anthony, and his adopted son, which was a shocking choice, which was his nephew Octavian. He adopted Octavian, and Octavian and Antony kind of find themselves thrust into this new role of being sort of the chief people of Rome. And Antony being the older man, the seasoned statesman, and Octavian being an 18-year-old that Julius Caesar saw enormous promise in. Again, Octavian, Marc Anthony famously said, was a boy who was only born with a name. It is the only thing that he had to give, was that Gaius Julius Caesar was his adopted father. And outside of that, Octavian brought nothing to the table. No experience, wealth, nothing of the sort. But as we will come to see, Antony was dead wrong, because Octavian becomes the greatest of the Roman emperors, and he creates a system that lasts 300 years and really solidifies and establishes the Roman Empire in a way that no one before him had done, not even Caesar. And Antony incites a mob publicly against the liberators, as they called themselves, Brutus, Cassius, and their lot, and they had to flee Rome after Antony's great oration at the funeral, where he throws the blood-stained toga of Caesar onto the ground and says he was the father of the state, and remember what good old Julius Caesar did for all of you. And then they chase the murderers of Caesar out of the Forum and out of Italy even. And almost immediately there becomes a power struggle between Antony and Octavian. And Octavian shrewdly goes immediately straight to the south of Italy and marshals the veterans of Julius Caesar and asks them to serve him and serve his father, or serve him as they had served his father. And he takes on the name of Caesar himself, and he's a brilliant politician. And Antony goes to Gaul and gathers his own troops. So again, immediately you can see that there's going to be another civil war. And Octavian and Antony realize that neither one is strong enough to defeat the other, and they simply agree to make a deal. That they form this second triumvirate with with a lieutenant of Marc Antony who is named Lepidus, and they have it officially legalized that they would become this body of three for the reorganization of the Roman Republic. Quote republic, or it's not really. So the triumvirate pursues the conspirators against the murderers of Julius Caesar, and they are successful, and they defeat everybody at that point. Brutus, Cassius, they all die at the Battle of Philippi, where Octavian and Antony defeat their forces. And after this battle, with the final defeat of the last old Republicans, they, the Triumvirate, parcels up the Roman Empire, and Antony is going to get the richest and best part of the empire in the east. Octavian is going to get Rome itself and much of the west, the really most undesirable portion of the empire outside of Rome and Italy itself, and Lepidus would get some of North Africa and Spain. As you can see here, Octavian basically gets all of this, and Marc Anthony gets the rich part of the east, key part here being Egypt, which is what feeds all the rest of the empire. And then eventually Lepidus, he's only really going to get Carthage and this small portion of the empire. He's very much the lesser figure of the three. So I'm not going to get into a lot of sort of the running of the triumvirate, because triumvirates never worked. They just simply end up failing because everyone else is always vying for power. And what eventually happens is Lepidus is sort of marginalized and pushed out, and quite quickly there is Octavian is going to seize most of the possessions of Lepidus, and because Lepidus was the high priest of Rome, always respectful of tradition, Octavian simply puts him under house arrest, and Octavian marches into the temple of Janus, where all the wills of all Romans are kept, and there was rumored that Marc Anthony was going to divide the eastern half of the empire as personal patrimony to his own children, between he and Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, and Octavian simply would not stand for this. So he goes in and he has the will read, and not only did indeed Antony divide the empire upon his death between he and Cleopatra's children, but he also hailed Caesarion. You remember Caesarion, the son of Cleopatra, and Julius Caesar, the natural, biological son. He hailed him as the only true son of Caesar. So this immediately brings Antony into conflict with Octavian, and Octavian plays him off as sort of being this unattached Egyptian and not a true Roman. So this brings them to loggerheads at the Battle of Actium, where the greatest characteristic of leadership with Octavian is that he realized that he was not a great general, that he was not the best at doing everything, that his skill was politics, but his best friend, Marcus Agrippa, was a magnificent general. Not quite as good, one could say, as Julius Caesar, but he was a great military commander. Certainly great enough to go down in the annals of military history. And Marcus Agrippa is given command of Octavian's forces, though Octavian was himself present, and they defeat on sea and land the forces of Marc Antony. And after this battle is over, Antony and Cleopatra return to Egypt, where they both commit suicide. Famously by taking an asp, a poisonous snake, and letting it bite them. So at this point, Octavian annexes all of the eastern half of the empire and unites the empire under his own personal rule. So Octavian is very